Authorization ensures that only the right people or systems have the right level of access to resources, applications, or data. Let's break it down per Microsoft Entra ID and Azure resources, as they handle authorization differently but complement each other. Microsoft Entra ID is responsible for managing identities and their access to applications and directory level features. Authorization in Microsoft Entra ID revolves around roles and permissions assigned to users, groups, and service principals. Roles like global administrator, application administrator, and user administrator define what a user can do in Microsoft Entra ID. For example, a global administrator can manage all aspects of the directory, while an application administrator can manage app registrations and permissions. There are 100 plus roles available, and you should understand them so that you can practice principle of least privilege. Roles can be assigned to individual users or groups. Service principal can also receive roles to allow applications to perform specific tasks. Users can act on behalf of the application, and their access is limited by their role. And application can access resources directly with elevated privileges. PIM will help you manage just-in-time access to critical roles like a global administrator and reduce the risk of standing permissions. In Azure, authorization controls access to subscription, resource group, and individual resources like virtual machines, databases, or storage accounts. Azure uses role-based access control for this purpose. Roles like owner, contributor, and reader define what actions can be performed on Azure resources. Custom roles can be created to meet specific requirements. There are several hundred roles available for Azure as well. Roles can be assigned at various levels of the resource hierarchy, such as roles assigned at management groups governs multiple subscriptions. Roles assigned at subscriptions controls access across all resources in a subscription. Roles assigned at resource group manages a specific group of resources, and roles assigned at resources applies to individual resources like a specific VM. Permissions assigned at a higher level, such as a management group, automatically cascade to lower levels, such as like a subscriptions and resources. Users, groups, and service principal from Microsoft Entra ID can be granted access to Azure resources through RBAC. Let's break down the differences between Microsoft Entra ID authorization and Azure Resource Authorization so you can quickly understand how each works. In regard to scope, with Microsoft Entra ID, you are managing access at the directory level, such as for users, groups, and apps. For Azure resources, you are controlling access to cloud resources like a subscription, virtual machines, or storage. In regard to roles, in Microsoft Entra ID, you assign roles like a global administrator to manage identities and directory features. Whereas in Azure, you work with RBAC roles like a owner, contributor, and reader to manage resources. In regard to permission model, Microsoft Entra ID focuses on identities. It's about who has access to apps and directory data. Whereas Azure is about resources, and you can control who can manage or access specific resources. In regard to inheritance, roles in Microsoft Entra ID don't cascade. You assign them individually for each user, group, or app. Whereas in Azure, permissions flow down automatically from a higher level, like a management group to subscriptions, resource groups, and resources. And in regard to integration, Microsoft Entra ID handles identity management directly, whereas Azure uses Microsoft Entra ID for authentication and relies on Azure RBAC to assign resource-specific roles. Overall, this comparison shows you how Microsoft Entra ID and Azure Resource Authorization serve different purposes but work together to provide a comprehensive access management.